In the vast, unforgiving void of the galaxy, few events could shake the resolute confidence of the Galactic Council. But when a lone human ship breached their borders silent, unyielding, and radiating an otherworldly power, the Council's foundations quivered. Humanity, once deemed a promising newcomer to the cosmic community, had not just turned away from diplomacy, had transcended it. And in their refusal, they left behind a terrifying question: what had humanity become? The stars stretched infinitely in all directions, distant and cold, while the Galactic Council convened in their grand chamber. 1,000 species, each unique in their form and culture, sat around the circular table, their collective gaze drawn toward a growing threat on the galactic horizon. The humans, those once promising newcomers from a backwater world called Earth, had entered Council space without warning. They had always been expected to join the fold, eager for cooperation and eager to discover their place among the stars. But now something had shifted. Humanity, the Equilari delegate said, his sharp beak clicking as he spoke, was supposed to be the future. A species driven by curiosity, bound by some sense of cosmic wonder. Now they seem intent on ignoring every friendly gesture we've made for centuries. His words hung in the air like a question no one dared ask. After all, the humans had been the galaxy's golden child, technologically advanced, endlessly curious, and brimming with potential. They were the ones who had once looked up at the stars with a sense of awe, driven by the very idea of exploration. Surely the Council had anticipated their eager embrace of galactic unity, but now their silence spoke louder than any diplomatic overture ever could. The Ardeen trader shifted in his chair, his reptilian eyes narrowing. This silence isn't just stubbornness. It's deliberate. They're not responding to our hails, our signals. They've chosen to ignore us as if we don't exist. An uneasy murmur swept through the Council. The Galactic Council was no stranger to encounters with newly emerged civilizations. Over the eons, countless species had made the leap from isolated ignorance to cosmic community. But humanity wasn't like those before. There was something different, something unsettling. Imagine humans, the Aldari representative sneered, her voice sharp as the crystalline structure of her homeworld, having the audacity to ignore the very principles we built this council upon. The nerve. The room erupted into bickering. Some species favored immediate action, demanding military engagement, while others urged patience, fearing the loss of a potential ally. Meanwhile, the Equilari scanned the reports before them, each one confirming the same maddening truth: humanity's ship was not accelerating toward war, nor was it retreating in fear. It was drifting, unmoving, indifferent. "What do they want?" asked the Andorran, his tentacles writhing as he struggled to comprehend the anomaly before them. "Do they even realize what they've walked into?" The Ardeen rubbed his chin with a talon, his voice dripping with skepticism. "They don't want what we offer. They've always been too stubborn for diplomacy. Humans. They've always preferred conquest over conversation." That much was true. The human species had never been strangers to conflict. Their history was littered with tales of conquest, wars fought in the name of survival, expansion, and dominance. They were a species that thrived on pushing boundaries, conquering unknown territories, and leaving few alive who dared oppose them. The galaxy had long accepted that truth. But now, even that was a distant memory. The humans hadn't come for war, they hadn't even come to conquer. Instead, they had arrived with a quiet, unsettling purpose, one that sent shivers down even the most hardened diplomats of the Council. They didn't come to fight, the Equilari declared with a tone of quiet realization. They came to disappear. A long silence followed. "They're not here to take," the Andorran added, his voice tinged with growing unease. "They're here to be gone." The Council had always been prepared for humanity to integrate, to evolve, and to join their ranks. Instead, the humans had refused all offers of cooperation, all paths to unity. They were no longer a part of the galaxy, they had become something entirely apart from it. And that truth terrified every species gathered around the table. What had once been hope had become a looming, dangerous uncertainty. And as the silence deepened, one question reverberated through the chamber. Why had humanity chosen to walk away from the stars? In the council chambers, the echoes of fear reverberated louder than before. The Galactic Council wasn't just dealing with humanity's refusal, it was grappling with something far more troubling: the absence of humanity itself from their archives. Records were disappearing, history was being rewritten, and a once promising species had vanished without a trace. The Ardian rubbed his scaly hands together, his voice filled with a mixture of dread and irritation. Gone, not just silent, but erased, like they never existed. The Aquilari shifted his wings, scanning the holographic displays that shimmered before them. We've lost track of humanity, completely. How does one disappear from the galaxy's memory? The Eldari asked, her crystalline gaze cutting through the murmurs of confusion. It's not like wiping clean a simple file. They were a cornerstone of our expansion. How does a species just vanish? The council was steeped in ancient knowledge, but this was unprecedented. Records didn't just vanish. Civilizations fell, but their existence wasn't wiped clean. There were warnings, remnants, histories left behind. Humanity had always been expected to integrate into the galactic order, to contribute to the ongoing tapestry of unity. Yet now, even their presence in that tapestry was gone. Perhaps they've chosen oblivion, the Andorran muttered, his tentacles curling in agitation. Or maybe something has erased them from our records, a purge deliberate or accidental. I shudder to think what could have caused it. The Aquilari fluttered his wings in frustration, or maybe someone wanted them erased, on purpose. The thought wasn't just unsettling, it was dangerous. If humanity had disappeared willingly, what could have forced such an outcome? And if someone had done this deliberately, what power could erase an entire species from history? The Prothean convergence loomed large in the minds of every council member. A once dominant species, they had risen, arrogantly claiming mastery over the galaxy, only to fall when they overreached. The council had survived their collapse, but only barely. Now whispers of that ancient catastrophe echoed through their minds. They disappeared, the Aquilari murmured, just like the Protheans. One moment they were advancing, the next gone, lost to the void. The Ardian grunted, and we're left to piece together the fragments of their past. If they fell into the same fate, what hope do we have of learning from them? The Aquilari leaned forward, his eyes sharp as blades. That's just it. We don't even know if they've fallen. Maybe they've ascended instead. The chamber grew deathly silent. The thought was both terrifying and tantalizing. Ascension? Was that even possible? Humans had always been a species driven by their relentless pursuit of knowledge, of mastery. What if, instead of succumbing to oblivion, they had unlocked some cosmic truth that had elevated them beyond the understanding of the council? They're not missing because they're dead, the Andorran declared, his voice an unsettling growl. They've transcended, and now there's something entirely new. The Aquilari's wings flared. Transcended? Or transformed into something we're not meant to comprehend? The idea was more frightening than any war or threat the council had faced. The Prothean convergence had been destroyed by their own hubris, but humanity had always seemed different, smarter, more curious, more adaptable. What if they had crossed a line that no other species dared approach? What if they had become something far beyond the council's reach? The Eldari leaned forward, her crystalline eyes narrowing. Transcendence means they no longer need us. We have no hold on them, no control. The Aquilari shifted uncomfortably. They're no longer just humans. They've become something we can't measure, something beyond our grasp. And if they've ascended, what do they want from us now? More silence. The Andorran hissed. We've always relied on cooperation. But what if they've become something that doesn't need us? Something that rejects the very idea of the council? The council now faced a nightmare. Humanity wasn't just missing, it was evolving. They had vanished into the void of their own making, and the very thought of what they had become sent chills through even the most stoic species gathered. Was this the dawn of a new, unfathomable reality? Or had humanity truly disappeared into nothingness, or perhaps something worse? The questions lingered in the void, unanswered, as the council realized they were no longer dealing with a species, they were confronting a mystery far beyond their understanding. The task force sent to investigate humanity's silent vessel returned with unsettling reports. Every probe they had launched was lost, their signals vanishing into the void. The humans hadn't shot them down, nor had they responded to any form of communication. It was as if their ship existed in a different dimension, one that bent reality itself. "A ghost ship," muttered the Ardean, his voice low and dripping with frustration. "A damned ghost ship. Where did they go?" The Equalari scanned the data for the 5th time, his sharp gaze narrowing. They didn't just vanish. They were never there. The Council was no stranger to strange phenomena. Galactic space was vast, and unknown anomalies lurked in its depths. But this wasn't just a strange phenomenon, it was a phenomenon that laughed in the face of logic and reason. Reports confirmed one thing: the human ship didn't behave like any other vessel in existence. It didn't move in predictable patterns or follow standard flight trajectories. It didn't respond to hails or distress signals. It simply existed. And not in any normal sense of the word. "It's as though they've become a part of the void itself," the Aldari whispered, her crystalline form shimmering under the lights of the council chamber. "A force we cannot see or touch. A riddle beyond our comprehension." The task force had entered the vessel, and what they found left them in silence. The humans were not on board. Not a single trace of life. Not a single signal. The ship's systems hummed with energy far beyond what human technology could generate. And yet, there was no one to maintain them. No crew, no signs of struggle, nothing. The Equalari shuffled his wings, trying to make sense of the reports. Empty. No life signs. No transmissions. No message. No reason. The Andorran hissed, his tentacles coiling in agitation. They didn't just leave the council behind. They left themselves behind. Wiped clean. The human vessel emitted a strange, pulsating hum. It resonated through space, an eerie signal that echoed with no discernible source. No clear warning, no plea for help, just a silent drone that seemed to beckon to the void itself. "They've become something else," the Equalari said, his tone hollow. "They've crossed a boundary we were never meant to cross." It wasn't just the humans who were missing, they were gone from the very fabric of existence. The Ardean stared at the reports, his mind reeling. What in the name of the galaxy could do something like this? Erase an entire species from reality? The Andorran growled. "This isn't just evolution. It's a mutation, a transformation that defies every law we know. What they've become, what if it's something worse than oblivion?" Panic began to spread through the council like a storm. Some species argued for destruction, wiping out the human vessel before its unknown energies could spread further. Others warned of the dangers of ignorance, insisting that any further investigation could bring risks they could not predict. The Equalari, usually calm, seemed visibly shaken. What could drive a species to abandon everything they once were? What force makes them disappear without a trace? The Andorran's tentacles twitched. Whatever this force is, they clearly don't need us anymore. And we certainly don't understand them. The silence of the human vessel wasn't just a refusal to communicate. It was a refusal to exist as they once did. And in that silence, the Council could hear only one thing: fear. The Galactic Council had long prided itself on its diplomacy, its ability to broker peace, and its role as the architects of order across the stars. But now, faced with humanity's utter refusal to engage, they were forced to confront something far more frightening. The humans weren't denying they were ignoring reality itself. The reports from the human vessel continued to pour in, but they were of no use. The ship wasn't just silent, it was untraceable, unknowable. The Council had technology that could detect the faintest signals across entire galaxies, yet this vessel seemed to cloak itself in some unseen dimension, slipping through the cracks of existence. "This isn't just a missing ship," the Equalari murmured, staring at the reports as though expecting answers to jump out of the glowing data streams. "It's a disruption, a tear in reality itself." The Andorran growled, his tentacles twitching violently. "A tear. A damn chasm. They've ripped themselves from our grasp, from our universe." The humans had become something they didn't even recognize. Their once bright future, filled with promises of cooperation and integration, was now a faded memory. In its place, the Council was left to wrestle with a growing sense of dread. Humanity had become more than they had ever anticipated, more than they had ever feared. They didn't just refuse our diplomacy, the Eldari said, her voice low and measured. They seemed to have rejected the very fabric of who they once were. The reports from the task force only deepened the confusion. Human technologies were still active, more advanced than anything the Council had encountered, but they seemed disconnected. The ship emitted strange bursts of energy that didn't conform to any known laws of physics. It was as if they had harnessed some cosmic force the Council didn't even have names for. They're not just explorers anymore, the Ardian said, rubbing his chin with a claw. They've become gods, or something far worse. The word hung in the air, gods. It wasn't meant to be taken literally, but the idea that humanity had transcended their own limitations, that they no longer adhered to the rules of biology or technology, was terrifying. The Protheans had once tried to become gods and had paid the price, but humanity, they feared, had done something far more dangerous. What if they've become gods of destruction? The Andoran hissed. Or gods of indifference? The silence of the chamber was deafening. The Council, once the pinnacle of galactic wisdom, was now scrambling for answers they didn't have. There were no protocols for this. No contingency plans. How do you negotiate with a species that doesn't even acknowledge your existence? How do you respond to a species that isn't even part of reality anymore? They're not the humans we knew, the Aquilari said, his wings twitching. They've become something alien, something even they might not understand. The humans, once the hopeful inheritors of the galaxy's future, had become its greatest mystery, and every attempt to understand them only seemed to deepen the void between them and the rest of the Council. What do they want from us? The Eldari asked, her voice trembling. They've turned away from us, but there has to be something driving them. Some purpose. Some endgame. The Council didn't have the answer. The humans had always been unpredictable, but this wasn't mere unpredictability, it was something more. They had always thrived on survival and expansion, but now they seemed beyond both. They've transcended survival, the Ardian muttered. They've moved beyond even the need for existence. The Council was left with only questions. The humans were gone, yet not gone. They had left the galaxy behind, but what they had become was something no one had prepared for. And as the silence stretched on, one thought lingered in the minds of all present: what if the humans didn't need them anymore, and what if that was the very point? The Galactic Council had long relied on the idea that cooperation was the key to survival. The Council thrived on unity, diversity, and the belief that any sentient species, regardless of their origin, could be brought into the fold. Humans had always been viewed as eager pupils, eager to join the grand chorus of civilizations humming across the galaxy. But now, that certainty had shattered. Humanity hadn't just walked away from diplomacy, they had rejected the very foundations of what the Council believed about the galaxy itself. They've become the universe's most terrifying escape artists. The Ardian grumbled, his claws drumming against the polished surface of the Council table. Gone, yet still somewhere, we just don't know where. The reports painted a picture of a species that had outgrown the need for the Council entirely. They didn't seem to care about borders, alliances, or the ancient laws that had governed the galaxy for millennia. They had become wildcards, forces of nature rather than members of the cosmic community. They're not just ignoring us, the Andoran growled. They're laughing at us from some distant corner of existence we can't even begin to comprehend. Even the most hardened diplomats were beginning to crack under the weight of uncertainty. The humans weren't just distant, they were beyond reach. Every attempt to trace their movements, to piece together where they had gone, only seemed to unravel more questions. They had become like shadows, flickering in and out of the fabric of reality, their presence only a memory in the minds of those who had once interacted with them. They've become whispers of a species that used to exist, the Aquilari said, his voice filled with dread. And now they're the ghost that haunts us all. The thought of humanity becoming ghosts wasn't just poetic, it was chilling. Ghosts didn't come back. They didn't engage or bargain. They simply haunted the edges of existence, waiting for something or someone to notice. And what if humanity didn't want to be noticed? We're dealing with something far beyond our comprehension, the Eldari said, her crystalline form shimmering under the glow of the chamber lights. They're no longer governed by the same rules we are. Their existence has become irrelevant to us. The council was composed of thousands of species, each with their own expertise, their own realms of knowledge. But humanity had always been viewed as the one species that might bridge the gaps between them. Now they had become a puzzle no one could solve. What happens when a species decides it doesn't need anyone else? The Andoran hissed. What if humanity truly believes it doesn't need us? What if they've moved on from the very idea of the council? The silence that followed was oppressive. The council had always built itself on the idea of interconnectedness, the belief that all life, no matter how different, had something to offer. But humanity had torn that belief apart with a single refusal. They didn't need the council anymore. They're not just missing, the Aquilari muttered. They're absent from the fabric of our reality. Completely and utterly gone. We can feel their absence in the void, but we cannot reach them. The human vessel remained a phantom, drifting through the void, its energy patterns and faint signals, a constant reminder that they were there, but not there. The council's greatest fear wasn't just their disappearance, it was that whatever they'd become was something no one could understand, something no one could stop. They're not humanity anymore, the Aldari said, her voice brittle. They're something else entirely, and we are no longer relevant to whatever they've become. The council had always thrived on unity and cooperation, but humanity had proven that even the most foundational beliefs could be shattered. In the end, the question wasn't where humanity had gone, it was whether they had left anything of themselves behind at all. The council found itself teetering on the edge of panic. Humanity had vanished into the void, leaving behind nothing but questions and uncertainty. Their once promising future as a cornerstone of galactic unity had become a distant memory. The council's venerable leaders, who had witnessed empires rise and fall, now struggled to comprehend what had happened to the humans. It's not just a vanishing act, the Ardian hissed, his claws scraping the surface of the chamber table. It's a disappearing act, one we'll never unsee. The council was used to crises, cataclysms, wars, political upheaval. But this wasn't a crisis they could fight. No warships could track humanity, no fleets could pursue them. The humans had not just gone missing, they had gone absent from the very fabric of existence. The more they searched, the more they realized they weren't dealing with a species but a mystery. What do we even call this? The Andoran growled, his tentacles writhing in frustration. They're not dead. They're not alive. They're gone. Not gone. Lost. Found. Not found. It's the most infuriating paradox of all time. The council wasn't just dealing with the unknown, they were grappling with the unknowable. The humans had become something their technology couldn't touch, their intellect couldn't grasp. The data streams, the probes, and the sensors, none of it could track the humans. It was as though they had entered a parallel dimension or perhaps existed in a plane the council hadn't even discovered. They've become ghosts in the system, the Aquilari muttered, his wings folding tightly. Entities we can't identify, let alone comprehend. Every council member knew humanity's history. They had always been a stubborn species, driven by curiosity, survival, and ambition. But even their stubbornness had limits. The humans hadn't just rejected diplomacy, they had rejected the very laws of existence that governed the galaxy. It's not just evolution anymore, the Aldari said, her crystalline form shimmering as if reflecting the confusion of the room. It's defiance on a cosmic scale, a refusal to be bound by what we consider reality. And that was the crux of the problem. Humanity hadn't just refused diplomacy, they had rejected the very idea of being part of the council. They had grown beyond it, or perhaps far more terrifying, they had transcended it. Transcendence, the Ardian snorted. A nice word for vanishing. Some theorized the humans had merged with the void itself, becoming a force they couldn't control or predict. The Ardian swore under his breath, his sharp claws scraping louder. We can't even track them. It's as though they've become the void itself, drifting between galaxies like nothing more than cosmic particles. The Andoran's tentacles curled in frustration. A species doesn't vanish like this without reason. What drove them to reject us? What made them walk away from their own identity? The Aquilari, always the more pragmatic, rubbed his temples. Maybe they're not rejecting us. Maybe they're rejecting everything. The very idea of existence as we understand it. The silence hung thick in the chamber as the council faced a dilemma they couldn't solve. Their once clear path forward had become a labyrinth of uncertainty. Humanity wasn't a problem they could solve, it was a mystery they couldn't unravel. We've always believed that if we knew something, we could control it, the Aldari said, her voice nearly breaking. But they've become something beyond our knowledge, beyond our control? Fear prickled at the edges of the Council's confidence. If humanity could become something beyond the grasp of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations, what else was possible? And if the humans had rejected the Council's influence, what did that mean for the future? The Andoran, his voice low and menacing, finally spoke what everyone was thinking. What if they don't care about us at all? The thought was like a knife to the heart of the Council. A species that didn't care about the Council, that didn't care about the galaxy itself, was a species that could bring about their own end, and maybe the end of the Council along with them. The Council sat in stunned silence, each member lost in their own thoughts. The humans weren't just absent, they were an enigma, a cosmic riddle without an answer. The fear wasn't just about what they had become, it was about what might happen if they decided they didn't need the galaxy at all. What happens when a species realizes it doesn't need anyone else? The Aquilari's voice echoed through the chamber, hollow and weighty. Do they retreat into the shadows, or do they decide to reshape the galaxy in their own image? The Ardian shook his head, his claws twitching as if trying to claw the very air itself. Or worse, what if they decide to burn it down? The humans had once stood on the brink of becoming a powerful member of the Council, a species that could have contributed, grown, and thrived alongside their galactic neighbors. But now, it seemed, they had rejected that destiny in favor of something far more terrifying. A future where they were neither ally nor enemy, just forces that existed apart from everyone else. They're not expanding anymore, the Andoran growled, they're imploding, becoming something that no one can predict. No one can stop. The task force had reported strange signals emanating from the humans' vessel patterns that made no sense, frequencies that didn't match any known technology. It wasn't just that they were silent, they were broadcasting signals that seemed to mock the very concept of communication. They've stopped asking questions, the Aquilari said, his wings fluttering erratically. They're no longer curious, no longer seeking answers, they've become the answers themselves. The Council had long prided itself on its ability to adapt. They were explorers, negotiators, and warriors when needed. But humanity had grown beyond even that. Their refusal to acknowledge the Council's authority wasn't just a snub, it was a declaration of independence from existence itself. They've become a void that refuses to be filled, the Aldari murmured, her crystalline form glistening under the dim lights. Not a black hole, just a void that watches, that waits. The Andoran's voice was sharp now, full of anger. What if they've decided they no longer need existence as we understand it? What if they've embraced some fate we've never even considered? The Aquilari's wings slumped. Fate? No, they've rejected fate. They're beyond destiny now. What do we even do with that? The Council had spent millennia crafting laws, treaties, and alliances, all built on the idea that every species, no matter how strange, could be brought into the fold. But humanity's disappearance had shattered that certainty. They weren't just another species, they had become something else entirely. Maybe they're not coming back, the Ardian said, his voice rough, and maybe they don't want to. The thought hung in the air like a dark cloud. If humanity had crossed some cosmic threshold and didn't want to return, what did that mean for the rest of the galaxy? What if they had become gods of their own creation, gods that didn't care about the Council or any of the species they once called neighbors? The Aldari's shimmering form shifted uneasily. If they've transcended existence, then we are nothing to them. Not allies, not enemies, just background noise. Silence reigned once more, but it was no longer peaceful. The Council, once secure in its dominance over the galaxy, now faced a future where they weren't even certain if they had a place at the table. The humans weren't gone, they were simply absent. What if they don't just disappear, the Andoran hissed, his voice dripping with venom, but take the entire galaxy with them? It was a terrifying thought, one the Council didn't have an answer for. Humanity had vanished into the void, but the void was far from empty. It was waiting, and the Council wasn't sure if they would ever escape it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Sci-Fi Horizon Stories for more thrilling tales of science fiction and adventure. The galaxy may be vast, but the mysteries of humanity are far from over. Stay tuned for more mind-bending journeys through the unknown.